just wanted to make a quick video. Let me be honest. I didn't want to do this. Chess has been complaining, and he's like, "Oh, you guys need to make more videos, more content." Fuck you, Chess. I hope you watch this. Hey, what's up? It's James. I just want to make a quick video, kind of go over something that happened to us last week, and use it to make 2 points. About a month or so ago, we were contacted by a guy that does a podcast / internet radio show, whatever. They contacted us and they wanted to do an interview with us. And, they had really nice things to say about our music. They loved our music a lot. They wanted to help promote us. And we thought that was cool. And we were like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do an interview. We'll give you guys some of our music to play. And, we'll go from there. So last Friday, we did the interview, and it started out fairly normal, asking, how do you guys come up with the music, and what are the songs about, and what's the history of the band? Typical interview questions that you would see in that kind of situation. They played a couple of songs. The conversation kind of got weird. We started talking about politics a little bit, which was fine. There was some disagreements, but for the most part, it remained civil. And there was an exchange of ideas, kind of. But it took a weird turn when one of the hosts, said that he used to hang out with Nazis. In the 80s, he used to hang out with Nazis. And when we objected to this idea, he assured us that Nazis in the 80s were different than Nazis in 2020. In the 80s, they were called neo-Nazis, and it was cool because you could just hang out with them. You could have a beer with them in the park, and it was cool. It was no big deal. And we disagreed, right? And I basically made the point that a Nazi is a Nazi is a Nazi, and that Nazi ideology, regardless of whether it's the 50s, 80s, 2020, Nazi ideology is based entirely on white supremacy. And this guy told us point blank that Nazis were not white supremacists, and that was the end of the conversation. At that point, I said that I was done. I hung up. It was a Zoom call. I disconnected from the Zoom meeting, and Sarah and Chess followed behind me. So the point of this is really to kind of highlight a couple of points, right? It's one thing, we can have disagreements on politics, right? I can not everybody is going to agree with every point that I believe politically, and that's fine for the most part. I mean, there's a few topics that there is no reconciliation that can happen with a difference of ideology, and one of those is racism, period. That's not a point. It's not even, in my opinion, it's not a political topic. It's a one of decency, of human decency. And it's one that I refuse to budge on. It's one that I will not try to look past somebody's racist comments, because in every other regard they may be a decent person. Because at the end of the day, racists are scum. Period. It does. I don't care if you feed the homeless and you've donated, your kidney to a stranger that needed it. The moment that you out yourself as a racist or as a Nazi sympathizer, that's where our any hope for civil discourse ends. I don't owe you anything at that point. I don't owe you any more of my time when we've gotten to that point. So that's where we found ourselves. In this interview the other night. Nazi sympathizers, I don't fuck with them. We don't fuck with them as a band, as individuals. That's just not who we are. It's not how we want ourselves to be. We don't want ourselves to be associated with that. So like I said, we disconnected from the call. We removed any mention of like promotion that we did. Promoting our participation in that, not because necessarily we're trying to cover ourselves or anything like that, but we didn't want to allow our platform to be used to promote that. Now, so that's kind of point one, is that racists are racists, and there's no amount of tiptoeing around the topic that's going to change that. We don't get to redefine what a Nazi is because you think it's cool to hang out with them in the park and drink. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. The other point is to kind of it's to bands and to other content creators that rely on external organizations or people or whatever to assist in promotion. I mean, a big part of playing in a band, big part of being a musician, is reaching out to people that will help expose you and your art to other people, right? So, we do that through, podcasts. We do it through YouTube. We do it through doing interviews with other people that have platforms that their base may be similar to our base. It may have those interests intersect, and so by being on an interview with a podcast that has its own base, we expose ourselves to that base, and we gain new fans. That's pretty common, right? The problem with it is what we discovered is that when we don't ask questions, we put ourselves in positions to do damage. And it's not about damage to us as people or damage to Poser as a brand or anything else, but it's damage to the people that are targets of these ideologies. Now, granted, this podcast, it was a music podcast that just so happened to have a host that had some stupid ideas. But what I've been thinking about a lot over the last week is what would have happened if this podcast turned out to actually be like a no shit white supremacy based podcast. Because this is the thing, is that we got a message from a guy that said, "Oh, you guys are so awesome. Your music is so good. We want to have you on, and we want to promote you." And that's where it ended for us. We were like, "Oh yeah, these guys think that we're awesome. So yeah, let's do this." But we put ourselves in, by doing that, by getting blinded by the praise and just that positive approach. We allowed ourselves to be blinded to anything else that may exist on the periphery. Again, we could have been walking into a situation where this podcast was no shit, a white supremacy based podcast that just so happened to have good taste in music. And again, it's not about protecting, myself or the other guys in the band protecting themselves as people, and it's not even about protecting our image as a band, because I think that we have established ourselves amongst our base as a fairly progressive group of individuals where social issues matter a great deal to us, and I feel like our response when put in that situation was appropriate to demonstrate exactly how we feel about that type of situation. But what it's about is the fact that by our band agreeing to take part in this interview with this organization, we indirectly legitimized this platform. And that's the part that I have a problem with, is the fact that any part of myself or the music that I create, the music that we create as a band, even if it was inadvertently and only for a moment, it legitimized this platform, and that in doing that, it harmed the people that we care about. It harmed, multiple communities of people that we care a great deal about. It legitimized, again, inadvertently, and even just a tiny bit, it legitimized that type of ideology. And that's the problem that I have with it. That's the problem that I see with it. Again, I think that our response was appropriate, but the idea that anything that I do could possibly be used as a weapon against any marginalized group is gut-wrenching. And I know I can't exactly speak for everybody else in the band, But I also know those guys well enough that their thoughts are along the same lines. And so, the second piece of this is again, it's for content creators, musicians, bands, whatever, is to be aware of what it is that you're associating yourselves with. Don't be naive. Don't assume that just because somebody likes the music that you create, that they necessarily agree with your ideology. And for some people, those two things may be separate, right? For some musicians, some performers, personal ideology and the music they create may be entirely separate things, and that's fine. But for us, that's not the case. What the music that we create is music that we love, but the topics that we discuss are topics that we take seriously. They're topics that we care a great deal about, and we allowed that positivity, we allowed that praise to temporarily blind us and distract us from those other things outside of just the music itself, those other things that we take very seriously and that we care a great deal about. So, if you're in a situation like that as a musician, as a band, as any type of content creator, just be aware of what it is that you're attaching your name to. Because, this particular instance was fairly innocuous, but it could have been a lot worse for us. And again, because not about protecting our image or anything like that, but just because we don't want to be in a situation where we cause harm to the people that we care about. So in that regard, it could have been a lot worse. So again, just make sure that you're aware of what you're attaching your name to. Any type of affiliation that you have with promotion agencies, with other bands, anything like this, in a way it comes back to you. So just be aware. Don't be naive. Do your due diligence. Do your research to avoid being finding yourself in a similar situation. With that, I'll just give a quick studio update with where we're at. Some shameless self-promotion. We are still working on the album. I think we're going to do 4 more songs aside from what we have completed so far. And of those 4, we've got 2 of them partially recorded, maybe about 90% complete, and the other 2 we haven't started at all. So realistically, I know we were shooting for 2020, but realistically, we're probably looking at like February, March time frame before the album's out. I'm not saying that as like an official release date. It may change one way or the other. We may try to move the timeline up or push it out some. We're just kind of playing things by ear is really what it comes down to. We don't really have set plans, especially since we're not going back to playing shows anytime soon. There's not really a big push to get the album done, but at the same time, I'm fucking sick of working on it because I've been at this since March at this point. So from an engineer perspective. So like I said, we're just kind of playing it by ear. We'll see how that plays out, but that's where we are with the album. Like I said, we're not playing any more shows anytime soon. We've talked about possibly doing like a live stream show or something like that in the near future. We'll let you guys know if that comes to fruition, but again, we don't feel that it's necessarily safe for us to get out and play shows right now. We're still not even really. We've practiced exactly once since the whole pandemic. We've talked about doing it again, but we're just being really cautious with what's going on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think once the album's done, we'll have some new merch and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for that. That's it. See you later.